First place to get started with your exam revision is to go over the details and the rules. So, in terms of the details, the timing of the exam is there's 15 minutes of reading time and then 120 minutes of writing time. So what you want to remember is that in that 120 minutes, you have to get 100 marks done, and that works out at 1.2 minutes per mark, which isn't a nice round number, but what you want to be able to do is roughly, not exactly, just try and figure out where or how long each question will take and where you want to be up to at a certain point. So for example, if you get a 2-mark question, you've got about 2.4 minutes. 3 marks would be 3.6, 5 marks would be 6 minutes, 8 marks would be, let's call it 10 minutes, and so on. Just in terms of the content, look, there's some fancy jargon in here, but basically all you need to remember is the whole course is examinable. All the key knowledge and skills from every single SAC could be on the paper. There's obviously no ICT being used in the paper, so there's no computer or Excel or anything like that. It says students will not be required to undertake calculations of financial indicators. You just need to interpret and analyze them. Students will not be required to prepare graphs, but again, you might be asked to interpret them. The exam will consist of a series of short answer and extended response questions. So if you do practice exams, you'll see what they're talking about. But basically the questions are usually scenarios or questions with multiple parts, short answers and extended responses. All questions are compulsory. You have to do every single question, and the total marks will be 100. And just remember, there is a question booklet and an answer booklet. So you only do your solutions in the answer booklet. The question booklet, anything you write in there is not assessed. How much is the exam worth? Well, looking at your entire marks for the year, 25% of your marks came from your SACs in Unit 3. The other 25 came from your SACs in Unit 4, and therefore your school assessed coursework was half of your overall assessment. The exam is the other 50%, so basically half of your result comes down to how you perform on the exam. Remember to take your VCAT student number and your ID on the day. You need to have that. If you don't, you'll need to go and see your head of Year 12 to make sure they can vouch for you. Because remember, nobody from your school is actually allowed inside the exam building. There will be external people who don't know who you are. The exam supervisors have the right at any time to check your materials, and that includes the contents of your phone, calculator, and pockets. All written responses in accounting must be in English unless otherwise instructed in the question booklet, which they won't be. And you are not required to use ICT on the exam. Looking at the rules, we'll go through these quite quickly, but maybe we'll refer back to them if you're ever unsure. Your mobile phone, just can't take them in. It's not a question of putting it in your pocket or so on, just don't take it in. Any device that's capable of storing, receiving, or transmitting info is not permitted. And the examiner, if they do believe you have a phone on you, they have the right to confiscate it for up to 3 months. Your watches are not permitted. You're not allowed to wear them. If you do wear one, it has to be taken off and put on the top of the table where it can be clearly seen by the supervisor. Bottled water, you can only take, if you're going to take a drink in, bottled water. And if you do, it's got to be in a clear plastic bottle with no label. So the Mount Franklin bottle on the right there would be no good. The clear plastic bottle on the left would be fine. Must also have a secure lid, so it can't be open without you being able to close it again. Can't be bigger than 1.5 litres. Can't be put on the table, so you need to put it on the floor at your feet. You can't refill it, and you can't share it with other students. Calculator, you're only allowed to take one scientific calculator in. So what does that mean? It means it's a calculator which does not have a graphic or programming capability, and it doesn't have an extended memory for storing text and or symbols. So obviously with a graphics calculator, someone could record, say, the definitions of the qualitative characteristics in a graphics calculator, and hence they've been banned. The calculator must be silent, handheld, and have its own power source, as in it can't be plugged into a PowerPoint. And you are entirely responsible for ensuring adequate power. If it goes out of power, then that is your problem. If it does go runs out of power, you need to provide your own spare batteries, and any technical fault or battery failure actually isn't taken into consideration. So if it does go flat and it takes you 5 minutes to change the batteries, you don't get an extra 5 minutes at the end. You can't borrow a calculator from another student, and if you're ever unsure, just ask the exam supervisor to check your calculator before the beginning of the reading time. What stationery can you take in? The supervisor has the right to check it at any time. You can't take in dictionaries. Any words you need to know you should have already learned during the course of the curriculum. You can take in pens, pencils, erasers, sharpeners, and rulers only, and that's it. If you're going to take a pencil case in, it's got to be transparent, like the one on the left. The one on the right is no good because the examiner can't see through it. There could be notes on the inside, for example. So the pencil case has to be transparent. Do not use liquid tape or correction liquid. It's not allowed. First of all, it takes too long to dry, so it'll just eat up into your time. Always just use a grey lead with an eraser, especially when doing calculations, because that'll be easy to fix if you make a mistake. What if you arrive late? You will be allowed to sit the exam if you get there, as long as you are not over 30 minutes late of the start of writing time. You will not be given extra writing time, however, and you've got to stop when everyone else stops. So if you're 20 minutes late, you have lost 20 minutes. You don't get an extra 20 at the end. If you arrive after 30 minutes from the start of writing time, the examiner's actually they don't have to let you sit the paper. What needs to happen is the principal needs to come down and recommend your admittance, and you acknowledge that VCAR may not accept your response materials. You're expected to sign a form declaring that. Reading time. During the 15 minutes, it is reading time. You can't mark the paper in any way with an asterisk or a star or anything like that. You can't use your calculator. You can simply look at the paper and touch it. That's it. During the exam, you can only use pencil, blue pen, or black pen. No red pen, no green pen, highlighters and so on. Just pencils, blue pens, and black pens. You can't leave the room until at least 30 minutes has started. So the minimum time you have to sit the paper is 30 minutes. And if you're there to within 5 minutes of the end, you can't actually leave in the last 5 minutes. You must start writing when instructed. Big penalty if you don't. The examiner has the right to take your paper if you don't stop writing immediately, and you must remain silent when instructed to do so. You can only leave the room once the supervisor has actually told you that you can. Where can you find these rules? They're actually on, if you follow the link there on the screen, you can go and get those. They're updated each and every year, but fundamentally they're the same. You can go and get them from that link on the screen.